The afternoon sun stretched long across a quiet suburban street, its golden light gleaming off the hood of a sleek black sedan that screeched to a sudden stop. From it emerged a man whose very presence commanded attention. Slicked back hair, dark sunglasses, and a leather jacket that screamed arrogance. His name was Adrian Donnelly, son of a powerful and feared businessman, known simply as the Don. Wherever Adrian went, people moved out of his way. Power followed him like a shadow. But on that day, something, or rather, someone, made him stop. On the edge of the sidewalk sat a small wooden crate, full of bright red apples. Kneeling beside it was a young woman, her eyes tired, her hands shaking. Joining her little girl, no bigger than 6 years old, in a faded pink dress, clutching an apple as if it were treasure. A cardboard sign leaned against the crate. "Buy my apples. To help my The last letter was smudged, unfinished, but the message was clear. It was the sort of scene that could soften the hardest of hearts. But not Adrian's. With a sneer, he stepped forward with disdain and pointed at the woman as if she were a stain on his perfect world. Before I tell you what happened next, if you believe in kindness, justice, and second chances, take a moment to like this video below, subscribe to Real Kindness Stories, and share it so the world never forgets that compassion still matters. Her name was Sophia Hale, but she hadn't always been this broken. Once, she worked in a small accounting firm's steady job, quiet dreams, and a heart full of hope for her daughter Maya. She wanted to give her little girl the kind of life she herself never had. But life doesn't always go according to plan. When her husband walked out on them and her company shut down within the same month, Sophia's world collapsed. The woman who used to balance books now balances rent notices, hospital bills, and an empty fridge. Selling apples at the corner of Maple Avenue wasn't her dream. It was survival. Every morning, she told Maya it was a fun little adventure, but deep in her heart, every sale felt like a cry for mercy in a world that had long stopped listening. That afternoon was painfully slow. Few kind souls stopped by. Some smiled, and some paid a little more, but most just walked by. Then, the black car came, smooth and silent. It roared up the street with the kind of confidence only wealth or arrogance could bring. Sophia's heart tightened. The calm atmosphere was cut through by the voice of Adrian. He mocked her sign, laughed at her shaking hands, and told her she was an embarrassment, that people like her made the neighborhood look cheap. Little Maya held on to her mother's leg, hiding behind her. One of the apples slid off the crate and rolled softly up to Adrian's polished shoe. He kicked it aside without a thought. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes, but she didn't say a word, speaking only to her daughter, urging her to be still. She didn't understand why life seemed so cruel, why humiliation always managed to find its way to their door. She attempted to speak, to reason, but Adrian wasn't listening. He was not there to buy apples. He wanted to make a point, to remind the world who held power and who did not. But what he did not know was that someone else was watching him. From down the street came a deep, rolling thunder, the kind that shakes the ground before you even see it. Engines. 5 motorcycles appeared in the distance, the sun glinting off chrome and black leather. They rode slow, steady, and united 5 figures hardened by the road and the kind of storms most men couldn't survive. Their jackets gleamed with a red and white insignia the whole town knew too well, Hell's Angels. Adrian didn't notice them yet, but the street was about to change forever. Adrian was too busy shouting, his words sharp and loud and cruel. But Sophia noticed something he didn't. The air shifted. Pedestrians were starting to slow down, watching. Even the wind seemed to quiet as the deep growl of engines rolled closer. 5 motorcycles glided to a stop by the curb, their chrome glinting under the sunlight. The lead rider dismounted, tall, broad, his presence commanding without a word. His beard was peppered with silver, his arms covered in ink that told stories of roads long traveled. The patch on his vest read Hell's Angels on one side and RL Chief on the other. His name was Reed. Reed didn't say a word. He just watched the young mother kneeling beside her crate, the little girl clutching an apple like a shield, and the arrogant man standing over them as if he owned the street. Then Reed started walking forward, the sound of his boots, slow and deliberate. Upon the pavement, a sound that makes the world hold its breath. Adrian finally turned, frowning. The rest of the bikers parked behind Reed, forming a silent wall, not threatening, just present. Their engines idled for a moment before fading into a heavy, powerful quiet. Sophia's heart pounded. She didn't know whether to be afraid or relieved. Reed stopped beside her, glanced at the hand-painted sign, then at Maya's tear-streaked face. He crouched, picked up one of the apples that had rolled near his boot, and turned it over in his rough, scarred hand, the kind of hand that could break bones or build something beautiful. He looked up to Adrian. In a soft, low, and even tone, he said, You think that makes you strong? Adrian froze. The other bikers all stepped forward just a little, not a threat, only the hint that real strength doesn't need to yell. Adrian's confidence crumbled like ice in the sun. Reed reached into his vest and pulled out a folded $100 bill, which he laid gently on Sophia's crate. "I'll take the whole box," he said, eyes still on her. "And if anyone ever bothers you again, you let us know." Adrian tried to stammer out something, an excuse, maybe an apology, but Reed's silent stare silenced him. Then the other bikers started to move. One by one, they reached into their pockets, tossing 20s and 50s into the crate until the apples were buried beneath a mountain of bills. One biker knelt beside Maya and handed her a shiny red apple, saying in a soft voice, "Keep selling, sweetheart. You're doing great." When they would turn to leave, Reed looked back at Sophia and nodded once, not as some kind of savior, but as one who understood. Maybe he'd known hunger too. Maybe that's why the angels rode not for chaos, but for justice when no one else would stand up. Wordlessly, Adrian got back into his car. The arrogance was gone from his face. Instead, his hands were shaking as he clutched the steering wheel. As he drove away, the street felt still once more, peaceful. Finally, Sophia exhaled, and the tension melted from her shoulders. Maya's eyes sparkled as she whispered, "Mommy, they were like angels." Sophia smiled through her tears. "Yes, sweetheart," she said softly. "Exactly like angels." If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Real Kindness Stories, where we believe that even in the darkest moments, there are still people who choose to stand up for what's right. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you saw that mother and daughter being threatened? With the sun setting, they rode off, their engines growing dimmer and farther away, until just one reality stood out clear. Real strength is not gauged by power or money, but by the courage to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And on that small corner of Maple Avenue, kindness had just won.